What's the hook? Do you have a unique selling proposition? What are you going to tell people when they ask you, why should I hire you? What's happening? JC Agajanian here, broker associate with the Whistle Realty Group at eXp, bringing you the breakdown, the recap of the Fast Forward Movement's Monday Morning Mastermind, as we do every week. And today we've got three great topics we are covering. Like I mentioned in the introduction, what is your hook? What is your unique selling proposition? How do you answer people when they ask you, why should I hire you? What's different, right? So that's our first topic. Second one is actually a little specific to eXp agents, and because there's so many of them in this mastermind, they're asking, what does the brokerage offer in the luxury space? How can they help really increase their price point with things offered by the brokerage? And finally, our third question is converting conversations to signed agreements. How are you getting past those objections and moving forward? So let's get straight into it, as we always do. What makes you different? What is your unique selling proposition? Why should I hire you? Well, I hope that you're somewhat prepared for this one already. You should have some things in the back of your mind that either you, your team, your brokerage, the people that you work with, even if it's not just something that only rests on your shoulders, is different, or something you can at least have to say that is valuable to a potential client in this particular situation. I mean, whatever, it could be a variety of different things. Are you an amazing listener, like one of my coworkers who just has this special talent to key in and really just relate with people? Or do you have this system that you have implemented into your business that is unique to you or you and your team that really makes the client's life easier? Like, doesn't matter what it is, just be prepared to answer the question, right? And have something that you say about yourself or about us that we do different than most other people. Another example that someone brought up today when we were talking about this on the mastermind was the concept of creating your own personal concierge service. You've probably heard of Curbio, and there's a service that one of the other brokerages has built in. They will either simply clean up and stage, or in some cases do light remodels, and then take payment through the close of escrow. Well, one of the agents spoke up today and said, I actually made a relationship with a really great contractor who's reliable, dependable, and affordable. First of all, if you find that guy, don't ever let him go, because they are hard to find. But if you do, not only that, this guy was willing to take payment through closing. So she developed the relationship so strongly by giving him enough business over the years that she pitched him on the idea of getting even more business by convincing sellers they will make more money by fixing their home up because it's ugly now and pretty homes sell. It's a novel concept, right? So if he's willing to take these payments through closing, he's going to get a lot more business himself, and they're both going to win, right? So she literally created her own version of this program that, a huge tech company in Curbio is rolling out a platform to do this, probably with a lot of interest and fees. So she literally created her own personal version of this broader concept that you've heard about online before, and it's working great for her. Of course, the contractor is protected. There's a contract in place with a promise to pay should the listing get canceled for some reason or the home not sell. But think about the psychology behind this. If a homeowner is willing to take on this fix now, pay later person, first of all, that just shows the intent, right? You know that listing agent is not likely going to have many or any cancellations after that contract is made between the homeowner and the contractor, because they know I'm going to have to pay to have all this stuff done anyway. Sure, maybe a homeowner is thinking, well, it'd be nice to get this stuff done, and worst case scenario, I just pay for it. I haven't asked her this personally, but I'll bet you anything, the number of cancellations has probably dropped to the floor. She's probably moving through just about all of the agreements she signed with this situation. And the cool thing is, it is a true benefit. Not only is the seller who maybe doesn't have the cash up front to do something like this, getting some solid work done, but it's a seamless operation managed by the realtor, knowing the contractor, having a good relationship, pre-existing colors and themes checked out that are going to be the most popular to all the different buyers out there. The seller's stress is really taken off their shoulders. The agent is taking control of it, making this home as best presentable as possible so that they're going to have the best outcome. That was a great idea of a really solid, unique selling proposition. Now, sure, other people can probably take that away and say, hey, we use this company, we use that company. We actually have an external company that we use for the same type of solution. But this one seems pretty smooth and seamless. And if I was in one of the contract negotiations or listing appointments with this agent, I'd have my ears open and I'd be paying attention because it sounds pretty good. Like I said before, yeah, it's a seller cost. The agent's not actually paying for it, but really making their life a lot easier. I mean, in the end, this is just one example of how we really need to clearly understand the client's issues, the pain points, the problems in order to really keep their attention and offer what we have as the solution, right? Another concept that we could bring up is just the idea of packaging and naming and talking about the features, the advantages, and the benefits of things we already do. It kind of seems crazy. Let's say you have a system for getting homes to market, right? You're going to do a week's worth of work leading up to that listing launch day, and you always do the same thing, and it seems to work pretty well for you. Well, if you type it out and you give it a name, and then you tell the sellers about what each feature is that you physically do, and then what the advantage of and basically why you do it, and then the benefit to them, and you've given it a name, now you've got this whole thing that you've created, which is really just a system that you're doing anyways. You're giving it a name, you're talking about the benefits to the seller. That is a unique selling proposition right there. Any one of us can do this, right? Take it to the next level. You can go and get this thing trademarked by the US Patent Office. It's not too hard to do. We've done all of this. Fortunately, I work at a company where I've got a guy who's thinking ahead and I don't have to come up with these ideas. But we've had a trademarked 7-day listing launch for years at this point. It is something that only the Whistle office has, and it just carries more weight. It's great. If you'd like a copy of that, I'd be happy to share it with you. Just shoot me a DM and you can R&D it or rip off and duplicate. So feel free. You know, on the buy side, we have a similar thing. We call it our VIP buyer program. And really what it does is it talks about all the things that we do for our clients, promises we make, actual benefits that we, in some cases, will pay for or negotiate for on behalf of our clients. We package it up, we trademarked it. It's called the VIP buyer program. And we show it to them that we do things that nobody else in the county is going to do. We are separate, we are unique, we offer more. So it only makes sense to move forward. Same thing, if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to shoot it to you. Just let me know. That's it for your unique selling proposition. We could talk about that forever, but there's lots to delve into there, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about luxury stuff right now. What does our brokerage, EXP, have to offer in the luxury space? Well, the long and the short of it is they have partnered with a company that specializes in the international marketing and the domestic glamification, I suppose. The thing that makes things look really nice online, really nice in print, and actually reaches international markets in huge publications like Barron's, like the Wall Street Journal, like so many more of these things that are not just being sent to homeowners and to web browsers here in the States, but all over the world. Right? The cool thing about it is that they have negotiated with the leverage of a gigantic brokerage, the fastest growing brokerage in the country right now, to get us great pricing. So we actually get what that company typically charges on an annual basis for a fraction of the price. So basically, you can sign up and join the luxury division of EXP for $2,500 a year. And you get all the benefits that this same company, if you were paying directly outside of the brokerage, would charge you $1,200 for every listing you use. You can carry up to 10 listings being marketed through the system at a time, and it's $2,500 for the whole year. People that operate in this $1 to $5 million average listing price, it's a no-brainer for them. We had people speak up today that one of them has a $3 million average list price. Sometimes he sells $10 to $15 million homes, and sometimes he sells, $800 and $1 million homes. But this guy's average price is $3 million, and he said it saved him literally $100,000 with the volume of transactions. This guy does a lot of listings at this high price point. He's a killer in the South Bay in Los Angeles. It's a no-brainer. So we've got great tools at our disposal, but we have to remember that just like an entry-level home or any other property throughout the country, proper pricing, really good communication, solid marketing, that's what's going to sell the home, right? The bells and whistles help us really land appointments and display the competency when we are actually competing. But it's the nuts and bolts. It's doing the job, whether you're at a high price point or at a low price point. It's the basics that's going to get homes sold. So, but staying on the topic of luxury, if you want to try and pick up those $5 to $10 million listings, you're going to have to be loud. You're going to have to spend the money on marketing. You're going to have to put yourself out there, and you're going to have to make it known to those neighborhoods that you're going into that you're the go-to person for those homes. And really the goal is just to get on the interview list, because frankly, there's somebody else who's probably at the top of that list already. There's maybe a few people that have, grayer hair than I do, that have been at it for a long time, that are just known as the person in that neighborhood to sell these expensive homes. Your goal, if you're breaking into this market, is to get on the list and then show competency and capability once you're there. Sellers in this kind of price point, they're experienced. They know what they're looking for. They want the best person for the job. They want to see proof that you've had experience doing this well. Of course, they're going to consider relationships. That's important in any transaction. But you've got to really be able to get yourself to the table and then step up and interview well when you do. As I mentioned before, one of the cool things about this great program that eXp brings to the table for us to be a part of for a fraction of the price it would cost on a regular basis is that when you sit down and you're going up against a Sotheby's or an England Volkers or one of these other, companies that have the perception of really high-end appearance, we've got to be able to compete on the basics, because a lot of them have Barron's and the Wall Street Journal and these big publications just built into their system. So the fact that we can tack it on, bolt it on as part of what we do and just offer it normally, incredibly important. The other thing is that this system that we're talking about actually brings you feedback, and you can go back to your seller and let them know how many eyeballs you actually got to their listing. There's analytics that we can report. And it's data that we can get back to them. And because a lot of times, if a home isn't selling, they're going to point to the agent and say, you're not doing enough, you're not marketing enough. And it's like, this is a great way to prevent that conversation from ever happening, because you're already reporting each week how much exposure you're getting, where the people are internationally, all over the world, and what you're doing for them to get their property seen and shown. So great tool. And it's also pretty cool stuff. One-click options to create impressive marketing pieces. We talked about the international distribution. It's great. But, in general, it's going to take a lot of research. You've got to know your competition. You've got to be ready and willing to ask for the help when you need it. You've got to be able to show your track record of success, and you've got to be able to interview with confidence to be able to get them to sign. But you can do it. Just go after it and get it done. We're going to move on to the final topic that we covered today, which is converting conversations to signed agreements. We had a newer agent in the business kind of speak up and ask for a little help on getting over some of the objections that we commonly encounter. But the cool thing about it is the fact that she's out there getting these objections, right? She's out there cold calling. She's out there door knocking. She's doing what it takes to get ahead in this business. And she got some kudos from the more experienced agents right out the gate, because she's doing things that even in our mastermind, the overwhelming majority of people are probably not doing. Start there. You got to take the actions. You got to do the things it takes to have conversations about real estate. And then you've got to be able to overcome these objections. One of the first things that came up was just the idea that, like, hey, you and I are having this conversation because I went out of my way to make this cold call or to knock on the door, whatever it is that you're doing, right? You can explain, hey, Mr. Seller, most listing agents are not willing to do this work I'm doing right now. Don't you want someone who's willing to go out of their way and put their head down and do the work, make the phone call, knock on doors, find people for your home? Because I'm willing to do this, and I'm demonstrating this right now. I'm here doing it. But you know what? Most other people are not. So, that's a great initial concept. Bring out the obvious. What are we doing here? I'm putting in the work, and I want to demonstrate it to you right now. Let them know, hey, I'm completely committed to providing you the best service available in any real estate transaction, and show that genuine, earnest, sincere desire that you're excited, that you have high energy, and that you're ready to go to work for them. And just remember, when you do get in your head a little bit about separating yourself off, kind of going back to the first topic, if that creeps in and you're trying to say, hey, well, that person does this and that person does this, and I'm separate because of X, Y, and Z. These people are always, and this isn't just prospects that are sellers and buyers, people in general are always way more concerned about their own situation and things going on inside their head than thinking about you or anybody else. So when you're in a conversation like this, they are clearly going to be more concerned about their personal situation, whatever issue that you're trying to help them with, than any other agent that they may be comparing you to. Sure, that may come up, but that's not the core of what's at hand here. What the core is them and what they're trying to accomplish. So as long as we stay focused on that and on them, that alone could help set you apart. Of course, practice is going to come into it. You've got to practice closing for the appointment so that you can get face-to-face with people. Because if they are putting you off on the phone or if they're sending you away at the door, you're not going to even have that chance to ask for the business. So you've got to practice having conversations, which means scripting. You've got to practice overcoming objections, which means role play, in order to get to that face-to-face appointment where you can then be practiced up and ready to close for the signatures, right? So clearly, lots of practice and role play is needed here. And a great way to give yourself a little edge, especially once you're out and doing it, you are surely going to start to notice some of the same questions or concerns or potentially objections come up. So just start making a note of them, write them down, and wait till you get a few of them and just brainstorm on them. What are these things that are kind of reoccurring, and how can I just address those objections and practice to overcome them? Because if I've heard it twice, let alone 3, 4, 5 times, there's a good chance I'm going to continue hearing that in the future. So I got to know exactly how to handle that so that it's not even an issue. And if you start with a few and then you grow, you're going to be armed with just the readiness and ability to overcome almost anything, because the majority of them are going to be repeated. There aren't a ton of new objections under the sea, right? Like there's the basics that are going to come up on a regular basis. So isolate what's happening in your market and what's coming up in your neighborhood and figure out how to overcome it, and just act like it ain't no big thing at all. When you are meeting face to face, point out people how you met. Ask them, hey, what was it about that postcard that got you to give me a call? Or, was it some piece of marketing? Whatever it was, like, again, we're bringing up the obvious. Hey, the way we're in conversation right now is because of something I did here. And then just kind of point it out by asking a question about it. Hey, what was it about that postcard that got you interested? Did what was it about my marketing that made you want to take my phone call? Whatever the case it is, you're pointing out the obvious, that you did something to get their attention, and now you're in a good conversation. So that's a great little tip that we got this morning as well. Especially if you are working in the for sale by owner or expired realm, come from genuine curiosity, right? Like, gosh, your home looks awesome. I'm so curious as to why you think maybe it didn't sell, because this is still kind of a hot seller's market. Your home looks great. I don't know what it was that kept it from selling. And if you're just genuinely curious and you're not just trying to play some sort of game where you can get them to say something and then take advantage of it, but you're really just like, gosh, what was it about this property? They're going to pick up on it. If you're truly curious, truly just genuine in your conversation with them, they will notice it and they will open up, and you'll have a better conversation about it. And, another thing to always remember is that this is nothing new under the sun, but remember that the person asking the questions is the one winning this sales conversation, because telling isn't selling, right? So if they start grilling you about things, of course, you don't ignore the question. You've got to answer it, but remember to answer and pivot and turn around and ask a new question so that you can regain control of the conversation and lead it to where you're going, which is hopefully a signed agreement. The biggest thing about all this is to really push past that first no. Most agents are just going to take it and move on, or say, call me later. Okay, I will. Don't do it. Go for the appointment. These cold calls or expireds or FSBOs or circle dials, these are not your sphere. These are not your friends and your family. These are not your past clients. These are strangers that if you don't get in front of, you'll never hear from again. So this is the opportunity to push yourself outside of that comfort zone and get a little bit pushy. Don't take no for an answer. Push for the next conversation to go, well, why would you say no about that? Or whatever it is, you've got to figure out how to get past it. But get a little bit uncomfortable in these types of conversations. Of course, you want to be sensitive and kind and receptive to people that you have a relationship with. But if they're gonna hang up and never see you again, you might as well do what you can to get in front of them. And don't be a lightweight, because it's kind of like boxing or MMA. A lot of people say the fight never really starts until you get punched in the face first, and then people wake up and now it's go time. That first no can be that jab to the nose for you. Don't let it shut you down. Keep going forward and get that appointment. So that's all we got for you today. It was a really great mastermind. We had tons of solid contribution from really great agents nationwide, and good questions from agents as well, talking about these things. So I hope you enjoyed talking about unique selling propositions, what makes you different, the luxury space specifically when it comes to offerings from the EXP brokerage, and of course, getting over these objections and converting conversations to appointments and signed agreements. As I said before, shoot me a message if you'd like a couple of those items I mentioned, or if you've just got questions about anything else we talked about today. As usual, I hope you can find something we talked about and implement into your business today, and not just fill your head with knowledge, but go out and do something with it to make your business better and to push the ball forward. I'll talk to you soon.